Hi, friend. Welcome to day 2 of our study in Galatians. I am delighted to be here. We are taking a look back at Galatians after studying Romans, just to take a better look at Paul. After studying Romans, I feel like I better understand Paul and his heart. Originally, when we wrote Galatians, this was part of a 4-series book, right? Galatians, Ephesians, Colossians, and Philippians. We went through those books one after another. And so Galatians began with this week of looking at Paul's conversion and just how Christ grabbed a hold of his heart. And we definitely see that today. Now, after yesterday's study, I spent the rest of the day pondering God and pondering just how God so mightily utilized someone who was completely and utterly opposed to himself to bring many to himself, to build his church. Wow, what an amazing work he did in Saul or Paul. And this ought to give us hope. It really should. And I have a lot of hope, especially after today. Wow, we see the power of Jesus. We see the heart of Jesus in today's passage. So let's go ahead and read this passage and we'll tease it out a bit. I'm already talking way too much here. All right, Acts chapter 9, verses 1 through 9. But Saul, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord, went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues at Damascus, so that if he found any belonging to the way, men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. Now, as he went on his way, he approached Damascus, and suddenly a light from heaven shone around him. And falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And he said, "Who are you, Lord?" And he said, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But rise and enter the city, and you will be told what you are to do." The men who were traveling with him stood speechless, hearing the voice but seeing no one. Saul rose from the ground, and although his eyes were opened, he saw nothing. So they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And for 3 days he was without sight, and neither ate nor drank. Wow. Wow. Now, for many of us, this may be an old story. Like, this is one of those stories we often see in Sunday school with the flannel graphs and all of that. It's an amazing story. It's a powerful story, but sometimes familiarity can breed contempt. So we really want to read this passage as if we're reading it for the first time. How do we do that? It helps to ask questions. It helps to ask those detective questions. And so the first question we might ask is who? Who is in this story that we're reading about? Well, obviously, this is about Saul. We talked about this is his Hebrew, his given Hebrew name, and his Roman or Greek name was Paul. This is Saul, the high priest, whom he goes to visit, the way, the people of the way, and Jesus himself. Yay! All right, so that's the who. Now, I think it's helpful to understand, where is Damascus? That was another question that I asked. We can always ask those who, when, where, what, how, why kinds of questions. What does that do? All it does is helps us slow down and carefully observe what we're reading. We ask those questions and we find the answers. It helps us slow down and kind of pick this apart a little bit. So Damascus, my Bible dictionary says, is 160 miles northeast of Jerusalem in Syria. And this was on Damascus was part of a popular trade route. It definitely was subjected to Roman dominance, so it was a part of Rome at this time. Now, what does Paul do here, or Saul? Saul seeks permission to purge Damascus of any Christians, right? That's basically what he does. How does he go about this? Well, he goes directly to the high priest. We saw yesterday the high priest is the head of the Sanhedrin council. He is the top dog. Saul doesn't hesitate. He goes directly to him, gets letters of permission to do this deed. That's the how. Now, we might ask why. I think we should ask why. Why? Because this feels extreme to me. This feels very extreme. Is it not enough to purge the believers, purge the followers of Jesus Christ in Jerusalem? No, Paul is going to the nth degree to travel all the way to Damascus to do the very same thing. He is still, as Luke says in verse 1, still breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. These threats, this is a declaration of an intention or a determination to inflict harm on another. And we see the cross reference is chapter 8, verse 3. That's where we ended yesterday. But Saul was ravaging the church and entering house after house. He dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. Paul himself repeats this story a couple more times. We see him repeating it in the book of Acts. Acts chapter 22:4 talks about the way. We need to understand who is the way. The way is actually, here's my Bible dictionary definition, the entire Christian system, but especially the manner of salvation by Christ. And so here is a group of people following the way of Christ. Oh, friends, there are many, many, many beautiful cross references here. I recommend that you dig into them. Here's what opened my eyes to who God is and how he works. Just the way he works. All right, but Acts 22:4, this is Paul himself reiterating this account. He says, I persecuted the way to death, binding and delivering to prison both men and women. So these threats, friends, this is real. These are murderous threats. So it caused me to just take time and take a moment to imagine, okay, what did it feel like to be a member of the way, to be a follower of Christ? Again, as I said yesterday, look, I'm very safe here in my home today. It is safe to worship and follow Jesus in my country. I'm not the least bit persecuted. This is real persecution. And I just wondered, I asked questions. I'm curious. Are they fearing? Are they trusting? It's as if I talked about this in our study of Exodus. Moses, in his letter, he dangles out this carrot to the Israelites by saying, look, in the midst of chaos, can we trust Yahweh? Can we trust the Lord? And in a sense, that's what Luke is doing. He's sharing the narrative about the early church and how the gospel message was proclaimed throughout the Mediterranean world. In the midst of chaos, can we trust God? And boy, do we see, yes, I kind of get goosebumps all over again. So did I answer the question, why is Paul doing this? No, I really didn't. I just said, look, this feels extreme to me. And I wonder, does this not show his zealousness? Paul, as we talked about yesterday, admits just how zealous he was for persecuting the church. And we see it here, right? I don't think you could be any more zealous than to go directly to the high priest, ask him for these letters of permission, travel all of this way to Damascus in order to persecute and bring back followers of the way. He is zealous indeed. All right, so those first couple of verses set up this narrative. What's the main point of this narrative? Well, we see, okay, yes, Saul is breathing these murderous threats against the members of the way. He gains permission to track them down all the way in Damascus. But Jesus has other plans, right? Jesus intercedes. Jesus stops him and blinds him by his light. I just asked, my next question was, how do Saul's plans go down? Well, as Saul approaches Damascus, Jesus stops him in his tracks. And yes, Paul recounts this story again you can read it in Acts chapter 22, verses 6 through 11, and Acts chapter 26, verses 12 through 18. We learn a few more details there. It's beautiful. All right, so I just kind of laid it out step by step, how Luke lays it out. Number one, so Paul he's just approaching Damascus, and what happens? A great light from heaven shines all around him. And we see in Acts chapter 26, Paul describes this as a light that is brighter than the sun. This is a glorious light. This is an unimaginable light. Jesus is the light. He is the light. All right, so a great light from heaven shines. Jesus shows his glory. Next, Paul falls to the ground. I want to know, is he on his knees? I just imagine him face down, like all the way spread out, face down, falling to the ground from this bright light, from the glory of the Lord. Next, Saul hears a voice. What does the voice say? Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And friends, as I study this again, it is this verse that just absolutely touches my heart. Our goal in Bible study isn't just to know these Bible stories. It's to know Jesus. It's to know God himself and his heart and his mind. Oh, friends, Jesus calls out to Saul, 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 why are you persecuting me? What do we learn about Jesus from just this question? Friends, when we see in the Greek, when we see a name spoken twice, this is usually a term of endearment. We see it when Jesus speaks with Martha. Martha, Martha, you are anxious about many things. Here we see Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Here's a term of endearment. What do we learn about Jesus? What do we learn about his heart? Friends, Jesus loves Saul. Jesus loves Saul. Jesus loves his enemies. Friends, that's mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I could just sit here and weep. That's the kind of love that Jesus has for us, friends. It's different from the way Carmen loves. It's different from the way that we love. Jesus loves his enemies. All right. let me move on. So Paul hears Jesus speaking to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Oh, I can't go on yet. We see Jesus entering into the suffering of his followers. He says, look, you are persecuting me. Now no one sees that in here, right? What does it mean to persecute? It means to cause to suffer. That can be both physically and emotionally caused to suffer. And Jesus says, look, you are causing me to suffer. So we see the heart of Jesus who enters in to the suffering of his loved ones, of his followers. Friends, are you suffering in some way today? Jesus suffers with us. That's the heart, that's the love, that's the mind of Jesus. Jesus enters into the suffering of his followers. All right, what else? Paul then asks, who are you, Lord? Who are you, Lord? And I wondered, does Paul know, or Saul in that moment, that this is Jesus speaking to him? He uses the term Lord. Does he know this is Jesus? Well, no matter what, Jesus does not leave him hanging. He answers, he affirms his question right away. And he says, I am Jesus. I am Jesus, the one whom you are persecuting. The one whom you are persecuting. Again, we see Jesus entering into the suffering of his beloved, of his followers. Jesus is the light. He is the I am. He is the all-powerful. He is in control. Saul thinks he has these plans, but no, Jesus is in control. Jesus stops him dead in his tracks. Jesus is the way. All right, we go on to see that Saul is left blinded. That's in verse 8. And that he enters Damascus led by the hand of others because he cannot see. And there he fasts. He has no food or drink for 3 days. So this is a different Saul than is expected to enter Damascus, right? Saul was laid out flat on his face. He was blinded, and he is humbly led into Damascus, holding the hand of others. Friends, Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. He moves suddenly to stop Saul and save the people of the way. His ways are beyond our ways. Like all the followers of Jesus could never have imagined Jesus working in the life of Saul in this way, working in the life of his enemy in this way. Friends, whatever it is we're facing, we cannot begin to imagine how Jesus might intercede. He is all powerful. He is all knowing, and he intercedes in a great way. This ought to give us hope. He is the living hope. But beyond that, friends, let's talk about some of these cross references for the way. Now, I had many written down. All right. I already read Acts 22:4. Acts 16:17. She followed Paul. This she is a slave girl in Philippi who has a spirit of divination. She followed Paul and us, crying out, "These men are servants of the Most High who proclaim to you the way of salvation." That's the good news of Jesus Christ, right? That's the gospel message. That's the way of salvation. There's another way to define the way. Now, there's a couple of verses in Isaiah. Oh, you got to check these out. Isaiah 30, verse 21. Isaiah says this, "And your ear shall hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.' when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. All right. I love that. And then Isaiah 35:8. And a highway shall be there, and it shall be called the way of holiness. The unclean shall not pass over it. It shall belong to those who walk on the way. Even if they are fools, they shall not go astray. Friends, what do we see? What do we learn about Jesus? He is not going to let even fools go astray. He is the one that calls them to this way of holiness. We see his work in Saul in this very way. Yes, Saul is a fool. Saul is opposed to Jesus Christ with all of his might. How does that go down? It doesn't. It doesn't. No, Jesus is the mighty one, and he will not let fools, even fools, go astray. Oh, friends, we see his heart. We see his heart that he loves Saul, and he is doing his mighty work in Saul. But friends, I just loved that verse. The unclean shall not pass over this way of holiness. It shall belong to those who walk on the way, even if they are fools. Oh, friends, that should give us hope. None of us are much different from Paul. We all have been opposed to Jesus. Oh, even in my day-to-day living, I can wander off. But here is hope that Jesus is not going to let us stray. He's going to say, as Isaiah says in 30:21, this is the way, walk in it. When you turn to the right or turn to the left, there's going to be this voice speaking to us. This is the way, walk in it. Friends, this is who Jesus is. He is the way and the truth and the light. He is the way to the Father. Let us rejoice. Let us thank him, and let us listen to him and follow.